So do you say things like, okay, so compared to year over year, you have grown this much in punching people's faces? Compared to
I don't want to track that metric, but I will say we do have metric tracking. So,
oh my
God, here, let me show you. So, hold on.
No, you have a artifact.
Sorry, Mia. I took a whole different direction because I want to know.
This is very good content.
So check these out. So I actually have devices that track how fast you can kick, how hard you kick, and all of these additional metrics, right? And so you see it here, right? You see it here, but there's actually an app that gives you the exact number, right? And so we actually had a competition during COVID in the world. And that's what that thing back there, you can't really see it, but there's a trophy back there for like basically the world's fastest martial artist. But if you can hit these things, right?
Wait, pull back,
wait,
John.
Wait. What did he just say? Pull back and move your camera.
Okay.
Because first of all, I heard
questions.
Okay.
I also heard trophy for world's fastest.
Yeah. So I don't really talk about that much, but just I'll tell you about it. So the way it works, so let me just show you. God, how do I want to do this? Okay. All right. So on the most basic level, like you have a device that can track all of your different things. So based on how hard you hit, it will tell you, it can tell you exactly how hard based on the settings and all that, because there's foam inside of here, nanotechnology that allows to sense impact, all of that. Well, there's a mode on here. It's called reaction time, where you can hook it up to the app. You can do it without the app, right? For example, I'll show you. What you'll do, you'll put it up on a target, and you wait. It's randomized signals, and then it'll basically flash, boom, and you have to do it fast enough to meet it. Well, there's a mode that will tell you exactly the number in milliseconds of how fast your reaction time is. So as long as you set up, I have to be this far from the target, etc., you could run an international contest, and that's what this group did. So we had all of the basically Olympians who competed in Tokyo before they went to Tokyo. The whole world got together to do this contest. Me and my students entered it, but because I have a data background and I spent months analyzing my data, I received some insight after looking at the data on some patterns, and I was able to identify the pattern, figure out the trigger, and make changes to myself and to my students so that I ended up beating the Olympians, and I'm like twice their age. I'm like 40 and they're like 20. And my students, so Rochelle, little Rochelle from the Philippines, like sleeping in a closet, nobody knows who she is. She moves here. She ends up being the fastest girl in the world, beating all the other girls who also Olympian medalists, because of these insights gained from analyzing the data that we get from that stuff. So that was a really cool experience. She was able to defend it too. I'm really proud of her. But it all goes back to the data capture and analysis. So very interesting story, very cool. And we love it.
Dude, let's see the trophy. You can't just show it to us.
He A/B tested
Yeah.
his components and his strategy.
Sorry.
Conversion rate optimization.
So this thing apparently, so it's a different material. It's an actual working unit, and it's leather, embroidered, and there's only one in the world apparently. So, God, I was like, it's a blessing. It really is. Like, very rare. You can watch the contest still. It was on Facebook, stream live. And it's all the martial art, schools logged in and watched it. And so, you can see me kick. And you can see me do it. And you can actually see it live, the data, in the real time.
I seriously feel like I suck at applying CRO to my life, because all I do is like A/B test moisturizers. I'm like, does this?
Oh yeah, let me tell you.
Look better.
Filipinos like the potluck, right? Because my wife's Filipino.
Oh yeah.
Like I'm involved in a Filipino community and church and all of that. Like I'm literally like one of a couple of white guys. Well, let me tell you, I A/B test all the dishes that we bring in to try and optimize the amount of consumption, because there's nothing worse than bringing a dish to a potluck and nobody's eating it.
You're like, babe, more vinegar in this one. Like,
No.
more
The
vinegar
actual
than
story
normal.
is cut the green
Fish
beans
sauce.
in the casserole. And then the desserts, you know, that we find that the people that we have here, they generally like certain types of desserts over others. And so all those questions you ask about empathy and all of that, like that's literally like every day. So you know, you got to imagine the number one subject my wife hates hearing about is marketing and A/B testing, because she knows I'm going to come and optimize her dish and she doesn't want me to do it. So you know, but,
Optimize her dish. If I was your
yeah.
wife, I'd be so
Yeah,
mad at you.
can you imagine? She's not going with that. She's just like, God, no. Like, what are you doing, man? Like, but I was like, cut the green beans. Just do it.
Be like, get the hell
Statistically
out of
research.
research, John.
Yes.
That is hilarious. Oh my God. This is amazing. I think this is a great segue into like just really talking about what you actually do for a living.
Where's
Because-
John all our lives? Like I've been
know.
needing John. I could have A/B tested my husband. I could have A/B tested.
I mean, yeah,
all
the possibilities are endless.
Gosh, big brands, $50 million, $350 million. They're not A/B testing their sites.
Nothing.
So
Everyone
the
uses
mission-
their feelings. I'm talking about millions of dollars of people. They're just like, well, we feel like this is a good idea. And I'm like, have you met Mia and her data analytics like tools? And we also right now think that we need John to be like, have you A/B tested this? Because this is how important things are. And the results are there. Look at that trophy.
Yeah.
I'm mind blown.
Look at the trophy. The results
I know.
are
Yeah.
there.
Sorry. Yeah. But I mean, I will say it's unique because even how I got that, just the story. So the other thing you know that Flint trained me.
Yes. We should name him Flint McLaughlin.
Yeah, you know his book. He wrote a book, and I can quote from it just to say that, hey, like I'm not some genius or anything. No, absolutely not. I've had some really good teachers. Well, one of the greatest teachers I had was a brain injury that I had. You would think I would get kicked in the head, but I didn't actually get kicked in the head. It was the airplane that hit me. Right. I hit my head in the airplane, and
you got hit by an airplane, John.
It's kind of funny and embarrassing, but what happened afterwards was not funny at all. It was really
about that.
Yeah, it was really, really, really bad. I had to actually go and see some of the best doctors in the world on concussions that work with the top athletes. He's like, "Oh, you're a Taekwondo guy." Yeah, I just work with the top, champion Taekwondo fighter out. And I'm like, well, I learned some really valuable things about the brain and how it works. I had to relearn how to see, I had to relearn how to walk. So as a martial artist, you can imagine that actually makes it that's like, oh my God, like I had to relearn how to do all of my stuff, but it actually made me better at it. And what I found is that a lot of those things apply to CRO. So there are people out there in the space that, I will say they're self-proclaimed, experts. And they're not doing the stuff that I'm doing because they're not aware. They're just simply not aware of it. Mm-hmm. I was forced to become aware of it. So there's a lot of different dimensions in sort of the approach that I take to CRO. And it's been influenced by all of these different things. So anybody that's ever spent any time with me learning about CRO, you basically learn my whole life, because every aspect of everything that I've gone through sort of added to it, and including that. So the brain thing, though, is definitely a separator, because anybody that claims to understand the brain that hasn't gone through any sort of a serious brain injury doesn't know what they're talking about, because they're just simply parroting what they think they've heard. Mm-hmm. I've had to go through it. I had to walk through it. I literally, my recovery was dependent on it, me understanding truthfully, because if I didn't, I wouldn't have, and I still have some permanent stuff, like my vision's changed, but that's fine.
Well, say more about your parallels between like your brain injury and learning how to do CRO.
Okay. All right.
Where did your brain go there? Where did your...
All right. So let's talk about that a little bit. How could I say this? So imagine, we go about our day and our brain is making hundreds of, probably thousands or more, we don't know, of decisions for us, right? And it's using biases and things that that it's learned to make those decisions, right? So already there's a degree, and we already sort of knew about that. We read that from Ariely, we read that from Blind Spot, and all these other different things. But what I didn't understand is that biologically, there are a number of different, not necessarily just sociologically, or even psychologically, but biologically, there are a lot of decisions that the brain makes regarding our vision and our balance. And that can have an effect on us and we don't even realize it. So vision, I've learned, accounts for about, they estimate 50% of the brain. I mean, I kind of went obsessive and try to figure out, but they estimate it's very high, right? So when I got injured, my eyesight changed. I had glasses before, but I have this thing called visual snow now, where I see stuff everywhere. There's like, you can look it up. It's really,
you're like in a permanent snow globe.
yeah, pretty much. Doesn't prevent me from doing my job or anything, but I have to sort of look past. I had that, but that's the least of my worries. My eyes no longer had the ability to basically converge and diverge properly. It lost that, the peripheral vision, all that. So in order to do those things, whatever happened up here, think of it like this. Imagine you've got New York City and all of a sudden a meteor comes down and hits maybe a quarter of the city, right? Very tragic. Those roads are all destroyed, but people still got to get up. The economy still got to go. So those same people now have to go on all the other roads that everybody has already occupied. So when those people are trying to go, all of a sudden the traffic quadruple. It's really bad because now they're no longer roads. The only way to fix that problem is to remake the roads. So that is the core issue, is that I learned that when I didn't have those neural pathways those roads created, it's like basic things, being able to process different things like the same time. At that point, when I looked at a website, if it made me physically ill, like want to throw up, I knew that there were some functional vision issues with it, right?
That's a good indicator.
Right. And
I've
before
seen
it would
some
just,
sites
I'd be
that.
like irritated maybe, but now it was literally like, I mean,
But
we're
you
talking ill.
physically wanted to throw up.
Right. Because the brain doesn't want it. What you got to realize is that in order to fix it, you have to force it to rebuild those roads, and it doesn't want to rebuild those roads. It's very efficient. I'll never forget this story. This time where I was going through vision therapy. I went through 5 months of it, and she had me look at this thing. She's like, I was like, it's blurry. She's like, keep staring at it, and I'm like, I've been staring at it. She's like, keep staring at it. I'm like, fine. I'm like, I'm an adult, right? Like I'm like 37 or 36 or whatever. I'm staring at this thing. I'm like, it's been 2 minutes. She's like, don't stop staring. I'm like, fine. And then finally, it went into focus. I was like, oh. And then she's like, put it down, do it again. I was like, so I go down and I do it again. This time it goes into focus in half the time. Do it again, quarter of the time, eighth of the time. And what she taught me is that the brain is inherently not lazy, but efficient. It's not going to do something that it doesn't feel like it needs to do. It's not going to make those changes. And so when you think about that, and the way she made me better and the way that therapy made me better is it gave me all of these really hard things. Like I can do things with my eyes now that most people can't do. So if I can do that, then normal vision doesn't produce any symptoms, right? So, and what I learned is that if some of these websites are really good for vision therapy in that it's going to make you better because they're so hard to process. There's so much for your brain. It makes it. I'm convinced that people, they don't necessarily understand that they're feeling symptoms because their brain is going to block it out, but that's definitely impacting their behavior, specifically their desire to purchase or do anything, because we know that feelings have a big impact on our purchase behavior. Mm-hmm. So what I started doing is I started taking this understanding and I said, okay, I'm learning about functional vision. I'm learning about figure ground. I'm learning about convergence, divergence, the ability to process a peripheral, all of this stuff, right? What if I looked at a website from that point of view? And not just from that view, I've got the psychology and sociology and all of that other stuff. But what if I looked at it from that? Let's just say I have a value proposition that's really strong. But because I'm surrounding it with all of this stuff, my brain looks at it and says, this is hard, skip.
Right.
It's the equivalent of banner blindness, but not in the form that we would readily expect. And so what would happen is all I'd have to do, and I've tested this so many different times, I can't tell you how many times I've tested this at the last place, the current place, ever since then. And I kid you not, by allowing people to focus on that, and if that value proposition truly is a value proposition, purchase behavior goes up, because now they can see it and now it can impact how they see the product, the offer, the site, etc. And then you got guys like, let's just say you're dealing with cold traffic media like TikTok, and it's Wild West. Their compliance heavily favors one group that's doing bad things and doesn't favor you, which are not doing bad things. And they got it a bone against you. And they say, well, your landing page needs to have all this stuff on it. And it's truly not fair. It truly is not fair. Like, you can prove it. You can make a court case out of it. But because they have no appeals, it's Wild West. They can decide whatever they want. But I got to go out there and still. So how do I hide that information in plain sight? I use functional vision so people don't. It's too hard for them to read.
Okay, wait, back up first and just say the TikTok thing. So TikTok is rewarding web landing pages that maybe have black hat practices, is what you're saying.
Let's just say that I haven't seen any consistency out of them. They will tell you that, oh yeah, we've got this, and that, but no joke, I've seen them. Their compliance team is its own little box that nobody can get into. And every rule that they've made, they've broken, in my experience. So if they don't like you, you're done.
You're in that TikTok jail, or the 200.
You're in the jail. So what you've got to do is, so it's the thing that I hated that I had to do it, but it was funny that it worked, is that I can make a site that seems good to them, but I know is not good for the brain, and they don't realize it, and still get my performance, because I know people aren't reading those things that I know are going to hurt conversion, that they demand have to be there. Home pages are oftentimes places where there's a lot of debate, and somebody has to have their thing, but it's going to hurt conversion. You can't take it off. No problem. Use biology to solve the problem. Increase the convert. You have your thing up here. So the point is that from this injury, I understand more of how vision can truly impact what's going on, to help people truly see and not see. We don't see with our eyes, we see with our brains. And I didn't realize this until it started giving me nausea, headaches. I mean, I'm talking headaches I've never felt in my life. I've experienced different types. Like, how they say the people who live up north have like 100 different words for snow. I don't know if that's true. It's probably a myth. But I'm sure they have more than one. They probably have 5 or 10. It's the same thing for me with headaches. Like, because of what my brain has had to deal with, but I've used that as a lens to see, what are some things that people are feeling that most people can't detect, but it is impacting their purchase decisions. And I've run those tests, and they've made a huge difference where I've been at. I had whole quarters where all I had were just functional vision wins. And it was all biology.
What are we talking here? Like, what kinds of increases using this method?
I mean, it really, so your increases are going to vary based off of the amount of traffic that you have. We know that. The amount of spend, is it cold? Is it warm? So if you're talking like, let's just say if you got a funnel where you're spending $1 million or more a month in cold media, right? B2C, you're spending $1 million, which means you got to be at least making $1 million or more, or however much more, right? In order to grow as a business, just in that, funnel, at least each gain was getting me 15, 20%, 10, 15, 20. So you keep adding those up. And of course, when you make something 100% traffic, that 20% will probably be more like 10%, right? You know what I mean? Like, you put more traffic on it, this generally happens to it, but it's still stat sig difference, right? You get enough of those, and year over year,
compounding.
It's right. And I've done that before, and even by accident, where it's like you bring an old page with all the old ways, and then you got all of those gains, and then you just put it head to head again, same time, same traffic, same everything, and you're like, oh snap, look at that big, huge difference. So but no, I'm really surprised, and that's the one thing that those folks that work with me at Performance Golf, they say the first thing that they learn from me is that functional vision, that's something that they've all ignored. I just had a game just this last week where that's exactly what I did. Was I made it so that people could see it, and then when they could see it, like their brain could truly see it. We're not adding new content. And now they're able to process it, and because they're able to process it, they're able to appreciate it, because they appreciate it. And so
I think that airplane head injury, it's like your Marvel story, John.
it has to be. I mean, it wasn't great when I went through it. I
Hero
kid you not.
origin story.
Right.
Yeah,
Because
It was.
first of all, what CRO managers, like we have a lot of CRO managers as our customers, and a lot of them come from UX. A lot of them come
They might
from
code.
human computer interaction, right?
Yeah, I mean,
Designer,
nothing against
sometimes
dev,
analysts,
yeah.
and sometimes just analytics, you
Right.
know. But that talent that you kind of unlocked as a result of your injury seems kind of unique. Like, do you teach that?
Yes. So yes.
You
Yeah.
do.
So I do teach it. And that's that's the thing. Like, I recently had a private thing with a B2C. It's a B2C brand. They do a lot. They do direct to consumer. I know they spend at least $1 million or more a month in ad spend, probably on Facebook alone or more. And I trained at a team in EMEA. And so, it's interesting because it's like, when it's nice to be international, to work with different communities, because then it's like, okay, well, let me, in America or in here and here, you finally get to explore those different levels. Well, even with that difference, where we're in different cultures, different core languages, they were able to understand it enough, and they've already paid for that time that we spent together in just one or two wins that they were able to get themselves.
Mm-hmm.
And so it can be taught, and they're starting to see it more now, but it just, it's just like anything, it takes time.
Got it. Well, I'm really excited for you to tear down some of these sites that we have prepared for you today. Candidate number one is a company called Third Love. This is safe for work, but it is a bra company. So I would love to get your thoughts on, you see this a lot in e-commerce, especially. Everybody gets onto a site and they're immediately presented with some kind of modal to give up your info. And I wonder what your thoughts are on that, related to, what do you call it? Functional vision.
Yeah, so this was a tactic that we would use back in the day. So I've been doing this for a long time, where if the site was really, really bad, um, bad's the wrong word. If it was really, really difficult for people to process, understand, the core, where am I at? What can I do here, and why should I do it? A lot of times we would use a modal as a way to get around having to change all the dev and do all of that, to kind of focus them. And I have found that has worked. I mean, in this case, they're offering a discount. I wouldn't be surprised. And initially, back in the day when we were first doing stuff like this, people were signing up. But now, one of the things that I'm starting to see is that, the effectiveness of that is going down, because people are coming to the conclusion, like, wait a minute, I don't know if I necessarily want something from here. Now, if you're a returning customer, maybe you're just going to try and squeeze out a little bit more, maybe make another email address. But that is one of the things that's coming to play. So it's not that modals themselves are bad. I mean, they're a good way to focus. But if the first thing that they see is a deal, and they're not having decided if they want to purchase here, or if it feels like right now, early access Black Friday, and people aren't excited, like, close. They're literally going to look at the biggest thing, make a decision, and go. So it's, on one hand, you can focus them, but if you abuse that, then what happens is that you begin to lose the ability there. So I would defer to this group to say, okay, I'm gonna get early access to Black Friday. We're sending an exclusive code for you. When are they sending it? That's my number one concern, right? So, okay, I mean, maybe is it for customers only or is it for new? Oh, is it customers or new customers? Oh, that's that. You see that? I'm not sure. We've been burned a lot, right?
Sure.
Is it really truly for me? So while on one hand, it is drawing my visual attention to the fact that you are having a Black Friday sale like everybody else, and that maybe there will be something good. How do I know it's going to be any better than the thing that I can get when I come back during that time? If the answer to the question, if you want to get them to buy faster, sooner, or to find the item that they actually want before it sells out, you have to give me more of a reason. And so right now, the only thing that I can physically see is get early access to Black Friday. Because I can't really see that text, plus we're sending, it's at a glance, it's like, and then because the form field itself, unless you've been to the site and you're familiar with that style, it doesn't necessarily look like a form field. I'm not sure what it is. And then the unlock, like at first glance, it's a lot to process. That's new. That's not necessarily, again, unless you are a regular customer of this site and that's the style that they do.
Right. In which
You
case,
know,
though, you probably don't qualify for this kind of offer.
right. And that's the thing. What if I do and you didn't tell me? That's the biggest opportunity with just this pop-up alone. I'm not going to say don't do it. I mean, you know that you probably need to do that, but is this the most effective way? Is it for customers or is it for new only? When are they going to get the discount? How good is this discount going to be compared to everybody else? This is an opportunity to make your customers feel really special and say, listen, we love you. You're here before everybody else. We want you to have the first pick with the best price. But the only way we can ensure that is if you just let us know and send us your email.
Yeah,
If you're
sure.
already
The
a customer, no
value would be
problem.
like best, like first pick of the best selection or the most available.
Right. There's your value proposition, right? Why should I do this rather than close it? But again, that will also involve you. All right. So now I've got to change the headline to make sure and then I got to give a little bit more space in there. If I'm going to have bullets or something, it has to be easily, and that whole email address and unlock, the way that it's together and it looks like a half moon green thing. I'm not even sure, maybe because of the
Oh yeah,
size on my screen.
that's actually my plugin. But yeah,
Okay, yeah. So,
that's like a
or
soft
email address,
browser
like the
plugin.
fact that it says email address inside, I've seen tests, probably is not everywhere, where when you have writing inside, sometimes people feel like it's already filled out or it's not clear instead of on the top. I can't say that everywhere, but I have seen it, depending on your audience and where they're at. So, a lot of opportunities. Unlock what? Unlock best deal, unlock the site. So the more questions that you leave, the more work the brain has to do. And that's just used. It's now saying, click.
Right. Just like, and I think that when we see modal data, it's almost always an immediate close
Just
because
click because
it's now modals now, especially at the homepage at the very first visit, are now just prone to banner blindness.
right.
There's not a
They've
lot of
seen it before.
value. Mm-hmm.
So you have to change the pattern. So there are a lot of things you can do to change the pattern. You can change location. It's center. Yeah, of course. You can change the color contrast. You can use motion. You can do all sorts of things. The brain prioritizes motion, by the way. That's why video can be so effective at drawing attention, but it can be abused, etc. But yeah, I mean, you're going to have to do a lot of work to get people to stop from clicking that X right away. And the only opportunity you really have is just the first line of that headline. Get early access, click. That's literally, they're looking at it, and I know they're not supposed to be sizing it up and saying, biases and stereotypes, but that's literally what the brain does to prevent you from having headaches, nausea, and all of that. Because that's what I lost the
Right,
ability to
because I'm
do. I
here
had
to
to
buy
rebuild
a
those patterns.
bra, right? I'm here to buy a bra, and I don't want to I'm on a path to something else.
Yeah.
I also want you to take a look at this next one, which is kind of similar to, you know, the world of ClickFunnels. This is Apex Growth Method. We met them at the Go High Level conference, and there actually was a video here. You
Yeah,
can
I
see that
remember
in.
seeing the video. One thing I will say about that too, there should be a video there. It probably didn't load all the way. But even the video itself, they autoplay it. It's not even autoplayed. It's more like a moving, like an animated GIF. I tested that, and unfortunately, that doesn't really do well if you don't have some sort of amazing what they call scroll stopper, something that's completely wacky or different or whatever. They think it's playing, and they're like, eh. They
What's an
judge it. They
example of a
prejudge
scroll
it.
stopper?
Oh, scrolls. Okay, so in the media world and media creative, they have, you people are scrolling through a feed. They're going through a feed, and literally what they find is they have a category of thing that they do to, in order, oftentimes to refresh a creative or to try to get the algo to choose it. They'll have these things called scroll stoppers, which are these completely, almost seemingly unrelated things that happen, like somebody cutting open a melon and blue stuff coming out of it, like some weird thing, and it doesn't even have to be completely related because it's completely different, high contrast, moving.
Mm-hmm.
What is the brain is like new, different, woo, like it's what they're doing is they're trying to hack that part of the system and to get the attention. And oftentimes, if you've got a good hook and everything right after it, sometimes the right new scroll stopper can kind of revive that ad or keep it meeting its thresholds. But at the end, it will fatigue. And if you just all you do is you put new scroll stoppers, it's gonna die fast. So you have to get new hooks and all that. But there is a use for it. But the reason why it works is the whole reason. It's the same reason why, like it's using the parts of the brain like motion, contrast, all of these different things where it's like, that's what we were built to do. When you are in a situation where it's fight or flight, right? The first thing that you're looking for is movement, because back in the day, if you saw movement, it usually meant your life is in danger. If it's something that you don't know, if it's if you're out there in the wilderness or wherever, movement,
Mm-hmm.
or even now you're walking, movement. That's a car. Boom. Like the brain prioritizes it. So the problem is though, is if you abuse it, people will automatically you'll draw attention to it, and if it's terrible meaning not performing.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that's the qualifying for it. If it's a non-performer, if it doesn't actually get them in, then it actually hurts you because now you've abused it, you've drawn their attention, and you've drawn their attention away from the headline. So
Mm.
you can have a page that has motion on it, but what you're really doing is you're drawing attention from the thing that's actually going to help them convert. If the motion itself that you've got in the lead is not solid.
Well, when we see this kind of like treatment a lot, where it's like headline center at the top, and we've got the hidden opportunity your agency is missing, and let's get to like the font color in a second, but you've got this how to pivot and skyrocket without chasing small fish, and then there's a video, right? And you said the video, like let's pretend we can see it, but it was like a GIF, not an auto
Mm-hmm.
play, but a GIF.
Yeah.
So in this treatment where there's like headline, center headline, and center video, like what are your thoughts about there's millions of these out there.
Yeah. So number one, don't make the video auto. If you make it auto play, what you're doing is you're drawing all of your visual attention to it. And that means it better be really powerful or else it's going to override everything else. It's okay to have one, but think about what you're putting before it. And then also, if you put it too low and you need that video, because there's some things that you can only communicate well in video, because I optimize VSLs all the time, probably 100, 200, probably 200 some tests on VSLs to date. If you need that video to help them transition and it's too far, okay. So that's the thing. Make sure you don't abuse sort of the things that the brains prioritize, right? So if you have, we want it, it's looking for the biggest first thing to pay attention to. Color and contrast, size, shape, all of that stuff is going to help determine what it looks at first. So when I look at this page, if the video was moving, so that's the first thing I look at, guess what? I'm going to look at, and all I see is a guy going here, and then I see a side view of the guy talking. I'm like, and I see his name, and I'm like, I don't know this guy. Or maybe it's a warm, maybe this is a homepage. Maybe they kind of know him, but it's like, what's interesting? I've already prematurely judged it, even though I'm not supposed to necessarily do that. Our brains do that in order to survive. Big problem. So let's just say I stop the motion. Okay, I look at the headline. Number one, that purple is extremely hard to read on that black. And so the brain it's resisting wanting to read that. It may not produce a symptom in an average viewer, but it will impact what they absorb. Whether they don't even realize it. I've tested this. It's funny. It's a fun game to play. I say the hidden opportunity. I'd missed the fact that it was for agencies when I first read it. That was the first thing because of that. And then that how to pivot to mid, like that's really hard to read in that all caps. And then but I know you got to have a certain style, and I get that you want to make an impression. That's important. I'm not saying everything has to be white background, black text, but I am going to say if you're going to do that, you need to make it easier for the brain to see it and process it. So it needs to be all white. Okay. It needs to be maybe even a little bit bigger. Right. And then of course there might need to be some space in between that and the next one. I know this seems like a lot of UX, but it's really just processing. So now, and then of course, schedule demo. I mean, for some reason that call to action doesn't make sense with the rest of the site. I won't get into that. But here's the other thing. Now let's go into copywriting. Hidden opportunity. Like this page was built for somebody that already knows them. Because guess what? Like if you're not giving me even the slightest clue on something new, like an aha, like in this call, you guys learned that I learned about the biology of conversion optimization. That's like an aha. Right? That's different. It's new. It's like, oh, I'm curious about that. Right? It's not just psychology. And it's not just sociology. It's not just UX. Okay. I don't see something like that here. I see hidden opportunity. They all want like it again. Like there's the stages of awareness in this case. Like the market they're well beyond. Like there's so many agencies that are saying the same thing. I don't sense a value proposition or some sort of a change in thinking or approach or anything, just that it's a hidden opportunity. So these people must really know them in order to want to convert with them because they'll still convert if they like them and they know them and they've talked with them before. Oh yeah, that's their site. Okay. Yeah. Their site looks like it's legit. And that's only the question they're trying to ask or answer. But for somebody that doesn't know, somebody that's coming in cold, there's nothing for them to grasp onto that's unique and different, right? So not only do you have functional vision working against you, you have the message itself working against you because at the immediate first glance, there's nothing for me to grasp onto. And here's the other thing too. There's something I do. There's a principle that I leverage all the time in copywriting. I call it the fortune cookie principle. I really learned how important this was when I was doing nonprofit optimization with donation pages. Imagine somebody comes to a site and they want to donate. They have a reason in their head. If you say nothing on that donation page, they might forget and all these other things and they won't donate. If you say too much, too specific, then they're going to be like, wait, this isn't the reason I wanted to donate. And then they don't donate. So what you have to do is you have to write in such a way that they're like, wow, this organization is doing something with my money, blah, blah, blah. But it's not so specific that it cancels out the thing that's already in their mind. Fortune cookie. A fortune cookie is written in such a way that you can kind of fit what's in there, right? There's there's still something on the fortune cookie. It's not like your hidden opportunity awaits. No, it's like you're going to have this thing and this, like it's a little bit more specific than that. So this page is totally built. This homepage is totally built for very, very, very warm traffic. It would
Yeah.
not convert on cold. But
Mhm.
if somebody knows them, has met them in person, loves who they are, and is just trying to make sure they're legit, they'll probably be fine.
I would say the majority of people who are coming to pages like this, and especially in the ClickFunnels world, are intended to be and that's what you would consider cold,
Cold.
right? Ads coming to that landing page, watching the VSL, and then
Mm-hmm.
booking
Yeah.
that demo or booking that meeting or buying that coaching program, right?
Yeah.
It's
This
almost
is not going
always,
to work unless it's been retargeted, or something to that extent.
yeah.
It doesn't matter who you've worked with. See, the market is beyond that. Everybody can. It's almost like everybody's saying that they work with. I look at all these brands I work. Yeah, but tell me something I haven't heard before. That
Hmm.
works for some people some of the time, but a lot of times what I find that these groups have to do, and take an organization that hasn't really changed their product, they still need to change and update the angles in which people understand that product, the ahas that they're saying in the space itself, the way in which they understand it. Um, you can sell the same product for a long time and extend its shelf life simply by attacking different angles of it in the channels. But I don't see even an angle being attacked here.
Hmm.
You
Yeah,
know, I
and
mean,
I'm curious, like of the whole. So what we have on this page is like, okay, the brands that we worked with, and here's some street credibility of who we are, and you see a lot of this a lot. Shop the programs, testimonials at the bottom, and some of them are video, and some of them is, but like the combination of these things. Everybody wants to put these on the page. Put the testimonials. I see testimonials at the bottom a lot, and I wonder, like, the what is the alchemy of a homepage that takes these elements and does it right, and what are the things that maybe we see all the time, like who we are and the logos that we worked with, that maybe don't really work anymore? Like, are they the new banner blindness?
there I'm willing to bet that there's probably a common denominator drink mix, but this certainly wouldn't be it. And if we go back to something like the conversion index, 4M, the motivation of the person coming in, so that's the cold versus the warm versus what they're looking for. The 3V, the clarity of the value, how clearly do they understand what you're offering? Then you've got things that are in the way, roadblocks, and then you've got anxieties that they have, which is what testimonials address. Testimonials don't matter until they can latch onto something in the value category or within their motivation. So
Hmm.
the probably reason why we see them down there is probably because people that have been somewhat successful, but have realized that you don't try and they also, testimonials signal the end of a conversation too. That's the other thing that you have to be aware of. One thing I deal with a lot, especially in direct to consumer, is signals. You're sending signals with everything that's on that page. What feeling or what is it signaling? Because some people will stop reading if they feel like the page is over when it's not. So, but again, no matter what you do, no matter what template you go with, you have to start with you have to, number one, connect with where they're at in the process. I
Hmm.
mean, what's their ideal, how do they shop agencies like this and all of this? What do they look for? And then what's your hook? What's your unique thing? And from that, then they start asking the question, well, wait a minute. Okay, I like this, but wait a minute. Is this just another? And that's where, and
Hmm.
so I've run tests in all different types of situations, whether I'm selling something, a product, a training, physical product, a training, whatever. Those testimonials and things don't matter until they've already come to they're already at that point where they're trying to answer that question. So
Well.
I imagine that the pages are going to be different, slightly different based off of how cold or warm the traffic is. That's
Hmm.
going to make a huge difference. And that also goes into your mobile desktop, B2C, B2B. So if you see somebody that's like, this is the page template for everything, that's a
Yeah.
lie.
Well, let
Because
me I definitely, so not everybody, we talked about this earlier, like people don't have people like you in house. And so when there is like a CRO person or it's a side hustle of somebody else, this is where sometimes brand, creative, it gets kind of in the way. Like, this is not what we want to do, right? Or I'm Louis Vuitton. We don't care about this. The brand is the most important thing. Like, how do you handle those situations? Like, what kind of data do you use? How do you build arguments to, when you're maybe in an organization that is new to testing and new to thinking about CRO in this way?
it's a great question. So this is an art in what we do that I feel like it's sort of either being rediscovered, or maybe it was not never discovered, or it was lost. So I'm starting to see this come up. I hear about it, when people talk about things that they learned at conferences. And to me, I'm like, wait a minute, hasn't this always been true? But I genuinely think that maybe it's been lost. So let's talk about it. Let me tell you a story. So I was at a company called Lead Crunch. They've since rebranded to Rev. They had some really cool sort of AI thing for getting leads for and all of that. But let me tell you, the team that they had, there's some very smart people there. Just the guy who works on the AI and all of that, he's like one of the few guys that built the algorithm that basically protects 90% of credit card transactions from fraud. Like, these are some smart people. There's a really smart lady in UX, like highly respected and all of that. So I'm going into this organization with these very strong points of view. And I realized that there's a lot of challenges. Like, they had a whole theme on the site. It's like guitars, and I'm like, and music. And I'm like, but we're not selling music. People look at the site, and my daughter, she's like, oh, music. And I'm like, this is a B2B play for like data and leads and demand gen. I'm like, so there's clearly a problem, but people put their blood, sweat, and tears into what they thought was really cool and interesting and all of that. So I had to go the long road, but the long road is the most important. So you start with the stakeholders. What is it that you want? Now you got to get the metrics. I want more sales, or more this, or more that. Whatever the key metrics are, I have to figure out what is most interesting and exciting to them. What is the epicenter of their excitement? Okay. Then I can look at something like that in the perspective of those metrics. I can say, okay,
Mm-hmm.
we did an analysis, and what I discovered is that we actually could get a lot more of this thing that you want. And I have a point of view, or a path, or a hypothesis as to why. So, so what we do is we get the people that could be potential blockers and all of that. And that's what I did. I was like, so I present a hypothesis. I have this heuristic or whatever. So it's not
Right.
me attacking them. It's process evaluating that they can get involved with and provide their point of view. So we evaluated. I said, I have a hypothesis. What if I present the hypothesis? They're like, okay.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, but you know what? I need your help. So I get them involved in building treatments, right? So
Sure.
we
Team
can,
building. Yeah, absolutely. Like,
we
you
get
have to be a
involved,
team sport. Right.
right? It's a team sport. We get them involved. And I realize that there are some things I can change and some things I can't. I have to know what I'm fighting for and what I'm not ahead of time,
Mm-hmm.
so that I can, if there's some negotiation involved. But again, underneath all of that is, what is it that they wanted? What is it that's like, what is the lever? What is the different lever that we're pulling that's different than they've ever heard before? How are we using that to change it to get to the thing? So it's not just me attacking them. How are they working with me? And then we come up with a treatment we're all agreed on. And then when I make the final proposal to the top, everybody is on my side because I worked with them to get there. It may
Right.
not be what I originally thought, but there's enough difference in the core thing that I'm trying to affect, that's going to affect this metric in order to make a difference. And so then I run the test. And lo and behold, Not only did I see this difference, but I have 300% more people on the site, time on site. I got this, I got that. So I'm not just taking the metric they want, but I'm taking these other metrics. And again, it always goes back. What is it that excites them? What is important to them that I can measure? And then what are the intermediate measures? And then I take that whole scientific approach. I'm not attacking you. I'm not attacking what you've done. I'm trying to upgrade it.
Right.
So, I mean, think about it. I got students all the time that come to my school, and, I truly believe like every student that comes into my school, I feel like they were brought to me for a reason, right? And there's value there.
Mm-hmm.
But I can't just say, oh man, you stink. No, God, no. You want to kill somebody. No, 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 no. I say, okay, let's see where you're at. Okay. How would you like to level up? You interested in
Mm-hmm.
leveling up?
Mm-hmm.
What is it you want to achieve? I can level you up here. Let me show you. Let me make a proposition and show you how. It's different than, well, you're not meeting my standard, and it's a different sort of thing. And then all of a sudden, they're bought into it. They're working with me, and then if they're not ready on time to promote, they're still with me because they understand that it's not about them failing. It's about them leveling up, and leveling up takes,
Sure.
people are used to that. So again, it's how you work with the people and what you keep in front of you the entire time. So if I'm an agency, I never make a test schedule longer than 6 weeks. And I'll tell you why.
Mm-hmm.
Because it always changes. Because the thing that they're excited about changes. Now, my test might run for 2 weeks, maybe at worst 3. But again, how are my tests directly correlated or connected or helping them achieve the thing that they want? And how am I working with them? It takes a little bit longer, but if you know how to assemble a treatment with variable clusters, you can still learn even if you lose, so that no matter what, when you're done with the test, they're like, oh man, this is exactly the insight that I needed
Yeah.
in order to make the business decision that I need to make. Because at the end of the day, CRO and experimentation enables more effective decision making, even data.
Across the entire team, across the whole
Right.
funnel. Yeah,
So
absolutely.
it's a long story, but so I was able to increase all the metrics in the site using CRO without making it look ugly.
Yeah.
So my sister is a traditional creative in Chicago, worked with very, very big brands that you've heard of, TV, television, like she is a traditional ad copywriter. She's a couple years
Mm-hmm.
younger than me. And she's like, oh, you do that stuff that makes everything look ugly. That is her perception
Right.
of my world. So when I tell her that I have a way to preserve what you're good at, Christy, that's her name.
Mm-hmm.
Christy, I can preserve what you're really good at, but just make it more effective for the brain and more effective for this, but while preserving your creative. That is the game. That's where I play. And
Right.
it is possible. It's just a little bit more work. But again, it's leveling up. And this is what I do. I had a videographer just recently. I said, we have this problem. Here's my hypothesis. I was like, but you know what? You're the creative and I'm not. I'm a videographer, so I can talk to him. Like, I've been a videographer for a number of years, so I kind of understand him. But I was like, you know what? I know you're creative, but here's the little box that I want to give you. I need you to help me achieve this
Mm-hmm.
functionally with a vision. I'm going to show you some examples of here's some things that have worked for me. Here's some things that have not. But you know what? I need your help achieving this. This is the variable cluster. You come up with some creative ways to do that. And he's done that. And even most recently, our most recent test, I even applied an old creative thing where I was like, in college, my creative professor, I did one thing. He was like, okay, now do another to make sure that it's really good. And I was like, I don't want to do it. He's like, you need to do it. And so I did it and blah, blah, blah. And I made this videographer do it. And guess what? He produced better work creatively using his creative brain. I never would have imagined it, but he stayed within the box of what I was trying to affect functionally
Mm-hmm.
in the
Yeah,
brain.
sure. I
So,
mean, all of that, art and science. There's like, I think in the world of where they don't understand CRO, there is the feeling like your sister that somehow analytics, psychology is somehow mismatched with creative process. And I feel like that nothing could be further from the truth.
right, exactly. If you know what you're trying to affect in the human,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's the old Flint. People don't buy from websites; they buy from people. Meaning they're we're that's what we're optimizing is how they're absorbing, processing, and deciding on what we're putting in front of them. And the creative aspect is so incredibly important. But you have to understand where you're pointing that weapon. Because if
Yeah.
you're not pointing it at something or directing it, that's where the power gets lost. Even a traditional ad copywriter will agree with that. They'll say, yeah, my headline's got to be solid. It can't be that too many words. Like, you know what I mean? Like, okay, focus, right? So we're doing the same thing. And that's really the key. And that is something that maybe it's being rediscovered. We've got a lot of analytical people. They really love experimentation. They absolutely love the process. But the part of the process that they've forgotten is what is the real core thing that I'm chasing at with begin with, right? And how do I focus? How do I get to that? How do I focus? How do I enable creativity to happen within that box where it's proven biologically? It's hard for me to describe without spending many words trying to say it, but I feel like
Yeah, no,
one.
first of all, we could do this for a whole other hour and we are out of time.
Yep.
But I think that the way that you talk about conversion optimization, the way you get into both psychology and analytics of it, and now functional vision, which is new, I, you're honestly one of my favorite people in the industry. So I am so grateful for you to be on this show. If somebody wants to learn more about how you train, how do they find you?
I think they're just going to have to go through you. Let me just
I
be,
will
I
be
mean,
the
seriously,
bodyguard to
I'm just being,
John.
let me hear me out for a minute. I have, I will on occasion take side projects and pet projects, but again, I'm like in martial arts, I do the things that I teach. I'm literally doing the triple kicks and the split kicks, but I'm old now, and so I have to take longer to recover. Like but I'm still living what I'm teaching, and I'm learning. I'm making mistakes, so naturally, I run an experimentation, you know, group in on the brand side because that's where the action is. Right. And we can go very deep on the brand side, whereas I've been on the agency side for 10 plus years, and it's kind of hard to go deep because they may or may not let you go deep.
Hmm.
So I feel like I can't lose that part of me. But occasionally, every now and then, I'll do side things or whatever. But what if I don't have the time? Well, that's where you come in. So I would say go through you, and then maybe there's something we can work out because I have trained. I have course that I've run, but it's a private thing that I've done. I haven't gone and tried to turn it into some big thing or whatever. But but
Well, and you
again,
know
like
that people who are coming through us already have the deep, deep data for you to be able to understand the consumer behavior more than most. So that's a good it's a good gateway. And like if anybody who's listening to this, I actually already created your coupon code to for a 10% discount to Clickvoyant. It is smartest John ever. That's the
that's
coupon
hilarious.
code.
You're funny. You're cracking me up. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Hey,
People want to know more about this. I just say ask, go to you, and if there's enough people that want it, we could probably create something. Or make something
pre-record
unique.
pre-record some pre-recorded coaching.
I mean, yeah, I mean, yeah, I would just say go through you for now. And because again, at the end of the day, like I have to believe in what I'm sharing and what I'm learning. I mean, yes, I've run probably 1,000 tests or more. Yes, I've analyzed 10 thousands of tests, meta-analyses, for profit, not for profit. But at the end of the day, if I'm not out there doing the work in the channels, like seeing the data myself, I don't know. I just have a hard time sharing.
Well, I appreciate you.